pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here today to serve this community and this school, and be with Dr. Seegers as we welcome him into our family, and be with Ms. Sanders as she leads this meeting, and help us make wise decisions for the district. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We'll call this meeting to order. Note that we have a quorum present with all members present, minus Ryan, who will be here shortly, I understand. Next item is public comments. Having none. Next item is communications.
No communication.
Next item, consent agenda. We have the minutes of the June 19th special call meeting, the June 20th special call meeting, June 22nd budget workshop and special call meeting, the June 22nd regular meeting, and the June 18th special call meeting, the monthly financial report, and the 23-24 adjunct facility agreement, the 4-H extracurricular resolution, and Bailey Dion is signed. Does anybody have any item they need to pull or discuss? We have a motion to approve items A through G.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to approve A through G. We have a second?
Second.
Have a second by David. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Next item is item H. Bailey Dion is signed. We have a motion to accept as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Terry. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Gap. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Abstain.
Passes unanimously with one abstention, Rusty Bailey. Next item is information items, principals report, and athletic director's report.
Okay, so in front of you, you have our short report for the summer. Also, if you look at the enrollment numbers, these are what we have on class rosters as of right now. I will say we are in the middle of people telling us that they're not coming back and then new ones coming in. We have new registration set for Monday of next week, so any of those new ones coming in, we feel like most of them will come in during that time. We've had a few in the summer, but not very many. So these are the class roster numbers as of like today. But that is very well can change. We've had quite a few tell us, I say quite a few, I say about 11 or 12 that told us they're not coming back. But any of those new ones usually we see come in like next week during new registration or like the week of in-service. The spotlights is we are almost done with our staff development, getting close to our teachers coming back. Our theme is MES is wild about learning, and so our decorations are pretty much complete. We got a few little things, and so it's looking really good. Things that are going on, we have Eureka training, which is the math curriculum training, July, which is next week. And then we have CPR training, the second one of the year on the 28th. And then, like I said, new student registration is going to be Monday and Tuesday of next week. And then August the 1st is when teachers come back, teachers and staff. And then on the 7th, we have Meet the Teacher and Meet the Cardinals. Do what? It's going to be 6 to 7.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. So far this summer, this is the last week of. Next week's the last week of SWAT. We will have had 8 good weeks of SWAT and skill-specific development this summer. We finished 7-on-7 this past Tuesday. Liked our showing there. General athletics fall camp for boys and girls starts July 31st. Equipment pickup for football will be July 27th. This week, the football field was sanded, and 2 weeks ago, both gyms, the rock gym and the competition gym, were waxed, so they're ready to go for that. We got a new scoreboard that was put up, and looks really good. And all coaches report back next week for coaches work week. Then we hit it the next week. You got anything else?
Thank you. You have that.
Well, and for the high school, his was just the new student registration and Meet the Teacher, which Ms. Hal had talked about. So that's what he had for the high school.
Next item, consider and approve an order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of Maud Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bonds, Series 2023, levying a tax and providing for the security and payment thereof, authorizing the execution and delivery of a purchase contract and paying agent registrar agreement related to such bonds, approving the preparation of an official statement and enacting other provisions relating thereto. Easy for me to say. Tommy, you have something for us here? I hope.
You'll see on the screen, you also have this printed out, placed in front of you. This is a presentation that Christian Merritt from Live Oak put together today. He's been telling me all along he would be here tonight to do this, and now you see who's doing it. So anyway, I guess I'm standing in for him somewhat. But this is just kind of a little recap of the sale of our bonds. They were sold today, this morning. Took about an hour to get them all sold. Didn't take very long, really. You can see here our Standard & Poor rating. If you, on the sheet that I printed for you, you'll notice right here, I believe, we do have a AAA rating. Our global rating is A, and those ratings served us very well when the bonds were sold today. Actually, we got a premium for it. We're going to see that here in just a moment. But our rating with S&P, we spent quite a bit of time sending information to them, on conference calls with them, and at the end of the day, convinced them that we were very solid. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't make enough copies, did I? But we were able to convince them we were a pretty solid school district. So we got the AAA and then the A global rating. He put this in just to show the pricing curve on bonds, and the red line is the price when the election was called back in February. The green line is where they were on election day, and then the blue line is where they were today. So actually it's a strong bond market, and so for us to be able to sell our bonds at a premium, again, speaks highly of the quality that they appeared to the investors. This is just telling you all the people that were involved. We've had, my email blows up every day with emails from all these people, but our municipal advisor was Live Oak, paying agent was BOKF, Underwriters Council was Winstead PC, the bond counsel was Powell Law Group and Haynes and Boone. Our bonds are insured by the Permanent School Fund. That helps the value of them as well, being insured by the Permanent School Fund. They were rated by S&P, not by Moody's or Fitch, but by S&P. And you can see the rating agency, the S&P rating over there of AAA, and they were underwritten by senior management at Oppenheiser and Company. Over on the right, I'm not really sure why he chose to include that. That's the first page of the preliminary official statement that we had to prepare, and there's a copy of that, of the whole thing here tonight for Mr. Pierce to sign, but that thing's like 85 pages long, and everyone you see listed over here on this left-hand side got their shot in that 85 pages. Attorneys, we got red line copies day after day after day. So everybody got a shot at what's in there, but that's just showing you the cover page. That was the initial documentation that went out to prospective purchasers of our bonds. Here are some of the people who purchased the bonds today. There's some names on there that you'll recognize, maybe some names on there that you don't recognize. But these are some of the major players in the bond market, and that's who primarily purchased our bonds. Franklin Templeton jumped out at me quickly because I'm really familiar with them. I know some of the others, but some of them I don't. But these are the primary people who were in the market today purchasing our bonds. This screen shows you the volume of the bonds that are sold, and the screen's not very clear. You can look on the printout, the volume of bonds that are sold to mature in each one of those years, the little numbers that are along the bottom. But if you look at the little chart, graph, whatever chart that's at the bottom, Oppenheimer offered these bonds, and when they first hit the market today, the 6.5 million worth of bonds, they had orders for 23.910. That's how popular our bonds were when they hit the market this morning. They had orders to sell 4 times what we had out there. And so they were able to just keep pricing that interest rate down, and it saved us $40,000 in debt service is what they're projecting that we saved by the decreased rate or by the premium that they sold at. But it's going to be very favorable to us over time. Here's the statistics that were priced as of today. We'll have the funds delivered on August the 16th, and we are going to open a separate account. This money will not be commingled with any of our other funds. We'll put it in a separate account at Farmers Bank. They're already planning to put up the surety to guarantee it and get us going. The bonds sold, the par amount, total bonds they sold today was $6.23 million. Because they sold at a premium, after everybody gets their cut out of this deal, we're going to get $6.5 million deposited in our bank account because they sold at a premium. The interest rate, the effective interest rate on the bonds that we're going to be paying will be 4.3037. And he didn't have this information to drop it in, but I've been able to negotiate with farmers. They're going to pay us 5% on the deposits while we have this money on deposit. So until we spend it, we're making money on it. Now, obviously, we're going to spend it, it's going to be gone, then we're going to still be paying this rate right here. But farmers will be paying us 5% on the $6.5 million beginning August 16th. This page, he says he's disappointed that he wasn't here. He brags on me. If you'd like to read it. I'm not going to brag on myself. That's the end of it. RJ, next year when it's time to renew my contract, be sure you remember that page.
Oh, sure, I got it.
I know you always take
the
care
same
of it.
color blue.
At the end of that, so.
Okay, if anybody has any questions, I'll attempt to answer them. I'm far from a bond expert. I've almost become that in the last 2 weeks, but I'm still not totally a bond expert. I'll try to answer if you got any questions.
How long's that money got to sit before they pay us 5%?
24 hours. Don't have to sit.
Yeah, check it and make sure, because it may only pay out quarterly.
I think they pay monthly on ours.
Double check it, because I
Okay.
had that come up.
Okay.
Them already on flooding
Okay.
and stuff.
I'll double check. And make sure they pay us monthly on everything we have on deposit. I didn't know we were negotiating payment dates. I thought we were negotiating
I
rates.
think it's new to the banking world right now.
Okay, I'll check.
So, and we do like the page you entered in there, President.
Sir?
That page you entered, bragging on you.
Oh, okay.
Smart.
Yeah, good move.
Yeah, I did not put that in there.
Yeah.
Well.
Thank you.
You bet.
No questions? Bob, do we have a motion to approve the order authoring the issuance, sale, and delivery of Mott Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bond Series 2023?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't see it.
I was hiding. Yeah, I was hiding.
Item 8, review the 23-24 budget.
Hang on, I'll pull it up on
All right. I like it.
Okay, here we go. This is normally the point in time we review the budget and propose our tax rates at our meeting to adopt everything. But because of the issues we've had getting the tax information from the appraisal district in a timely manner, we've chosen to just present the budget tonight. We'll propose the tax rate at a call meeting, hopefully on August the 8th, and set the date then for adoption. But here tonight, you'll see the review and the overview of our budget for next year. First is our general operating fund, and it never comes out as good on the screen as it does on the paper. But you'll see in the revenue portion, taxes estimated at $777,000. That is based on current rates and law. I'm expecting that to go down when we finally get everything through that's got to come through on taxes. Even at that, our state revenue is going to increase somewhat, up to $5.9 million. I've tried to roughly calculate. I think as a result of the tax compression, we should probably get an additional $400,000 from the state. And I actually think our tax collection will probably drop by about $400,000 on the M&O side. But total revenue, $6.9 million, you can see right there. And then the areas where we're going to spend it, again, payroll, almost $4.5 million, roughly 2/3 of the total budget is on payroll costs. And then across contracted supplies, other operating, those things are basically just almost cookie cutter from last year. Not a lot has changed. We do have some increases in other operating because we've had to increase the budget primarily for travel and for student meals. Those things are still just going out of sight. I haven't been here very long. When I first got here, we could feed a kid for $7. And today, we can't hardly buy a soft drink for $7. And so we've had to put more money in the budget for those things to feed our kiddos. And obviously, the cost of the bus has gotten greater, so we've had to put more in other operating to cover the travel. Then across, just right down here in, see if I can find it, in capital, okay, right there, that 100,000. I'm sorry, the 90,000 right there. I'm sorry. The 90,000 is primarily made up of new equipment for the band. They'll be able to buy the other half of their new instruments. You know, we bought half last year, and we're hoping to buy the other half this year. Honestly, I'm thinking we've increased by enough students in band that probably half again is not going to quite cover it. We may have to budget some money next year, or we may not have to, but we may need to budget more to complete that. Also in that number, and I've listed these things down at the bottom, is proposing to purchase a new zero-turn mower to mow here, the practice field and some of the facilities here, to replace a mower that has just reached the end of its life, and also to buy a small compact tractor with a loader to replace the tractor that's out at the fields. Obviously, we will not make some of those large purchases until we know we're on good footing with our numbers for next year. But that's our expenses, and the total expenses right there of $6.7 million. So we're projecting roughly 200,000 positive number to our budget. In other words, we're expecting revenue to be 200,000 greater than our expenses. When I come back to you on August the 8th, I don't think these numbers will change drastically, but they certainly could change some if we get the new funding numbers beginning to filter down. Then, any questions on this? I'm going too fast. I'm not going fast enough.
You're rolling.
Okay. On the next page, you're used to seeing this, food service, interest and sinking. Our food service, I have it projected just about at break even, and that's really being pretty conservative on revenue. I think it will actually do better than that for the year. It certainly has in the years since COVID, but I have it projected to break even. I have $274,000 in revenue and $274,000 in expenses. You'll see payroll, of course, has increases slightly for step increases. Supplies expenses, I've budgeted about $15,000, $16,000 more there. That's another place where we're seeing a lot of inflationary pressure on what we buy, the things in the cafeteria. The food is higher, the paper goods are certainly higher that we're having to purchase or that we're needing to purchase in the cafeteria. Our interest and sinking fund, this is really an interesting play on the numbers. I am projecting this will be the tax receipts with the new bond, with the 22 cents additional INS tax. The state still chipping in about the same amount. Built into our bond schedule, our what we're going to do with our proceeds is $300,000 to fund this account, because we will not get the state money for the bonds that we've sold, the bond payments, for 2 fiscal years. We're going to burn through that $300,000 in 23-24, 24-25. Then in 25-26, it'll be made up with additional state money that's in the pipeline. It just takes that longer to get eligible for it and to get it. So they have figured, the Live Oak people put that money in the schedule. So we're going to have the $300,000 going in. You'll see they give us $591 and $383 in debt service. So we're going to have $207,000 excess in that account, but we'll burn through most of that in 24-25 as we make interest payments on the bond prior to receiving the state money. Any questions on that? Because it took me a while to wrap my head around that idea.
So the money in 2 years, that's the state matching money on the bonds, right?
Yeah, that's it's not really instructional facilities allotment anymore. It's got another name. I think the acronym's EDA, and I can't recall exactly what it stands for, but it is state money for instructional facilities. And actually, we're going to make an interest payment in August. The rush to sell the bonds now was so we could make an interest payment in August. By having made one in this fiscal year, it makes us eligible for that money a year quicker. If we don't make a payment in August, then we go 3 years before we're eligible for that money. But we're going to make roughly $7,000 interest payment in August, and that'll kick that money in a year faster. But in the meantime, we're going to have that $300 that's going to come out of the bond proceeds and go in there to help cover this. Okay, this last page, I usually click this on the screen and say, this is what we're going to run in the newspaper. I'm going to click this on the screen and say, this is not what we're going to run in the newspaper. This is just to kind of give you an idea of where we're going to be. The very top row matches up to last year. That's our M&O rate, our INS rate total. It's looking like with the new tax compression that our M&O rate is going to be 0.738. And then our INS rate will add 22 cents, as all the bond materials indicated, to the 4.03. So our bond rate, our INS rate will be 0.2603, making our total rate, actually, even with the bonds, our total rate is going to be less than it was last year due to the compression. We should see a significant decrease in what residential property owners are paying in school taxes, because this total rate's going to go down, and on top of that, they're going to have that extra $60,000 in homestead exemption.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and the appraisal district so far has not been able to give me the effects of that 100,000. I think I'll have it by the end of next week. They're working on it. They're working fast and furious, and all this was just kind of dumped in their lap, to go calculate new numbers. And, they're saying by the end of next week, I should have it, and we'll be able to better calculate where we are when we know exactly what that number's gonna be. But, that's where I think we're gonna be, but hang tight till August the 8th, and we'll put a little more definite number up there. Any other questions?
Good.
Concerns, thoughts? Okay, thank y'all.
No action being on that item, we'll move on to consider and approve the extra pay stipend schedule for 23-24.
And this, I believe, was on your spot. The only difference in, what's on here now, what was last year, is we have added a stipend for a volleyball coordinator, for $10,000. This will be just for this coming school year. So that's the only thing that's different than, what it was last year.
Any questions or discussion?
I'll let y'all know about my volleyball coordinating skills.
Come on, bring down.
Yeah, nothing like, I like to see you jump up the spider.
Nothing like a 4-foot guy coaching volleyball.
They just gotta lower the net.
Dang, tough crowd.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? We have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
A motion to approve the extra pay stipend. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Consider and approve salary schedules for 23-24.
Okay, these were included in your board book packet. The only difference in the schedules for this year is a step 24 was added. And then also on the LVN schedule, there was added a 197-day schedule for that. So those are the only two difference in the schedules for this year.
That's in months, how many? That 197, was that a 10 month?
10 and a half.
10 and a half, right,
10 and a half months. It was a what?
was 10.
It was 10, okay. Any other questions or discussion? Have a motion to approve the salary schedules for 23-24.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Terry, a second.
I'll second.
Second by Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Next item is discuss revisions and approve the student handbook for 23-24.
All right, so I just typed up a sheet for the different handbook, the changes that we met on Tuesday to go over the handbooks. And for the student handbook on the first sheet, the only changes that we had for that is on the dress code. We had a very lengthy discussion over dress code. One thing we did come up with was removing, we had in there last year that tattoos had to be covered up, and we did remove that for the next school year. That this is something that has taken off at school. We've had several kids who last year got tattoos. You know, it's not as much the issue of on the arm, you know, things like that are easy to cover up, but there's a lot of kids who have them in areas that, you know, you say you gotta cover them up, they've gotta be covered up, and they've got some behind the ear, on the feet. So we did remove that for, I talked to a couple of schools that are around us to kind of see what they were doing, and they were not making students cover up tattoos. So we did remove that. We also changed the wording on the piercing to where it said visible body piercings such as lip, eyebrow, or tongue studs are prohibited with the exception to ears and one single small stud clear spacer. Because we have had, you know, some with the little, and kind of the discussion was as to, you know, what exactly is something we're wanting to die on the mountain on? Is this that important of a an issue, and very few people have that. We haven't really had, a large number of students that have had that. I think there was 3 maybe last year. So we did put that in there, that as long as it's just a small study. On the electronic devices, we had a teacher last year who had her students, it was like a calculator holder on the wall, and when the students came in, they were required to put their phones in the calculator holder during the class period. And then once the bell rang, they were able to get the cell phones out. They said it really worked well, because one of the big problems you have over there is kids taking pictures of the test, sending them to the friends who are having a later class period, just cheating. So thought this might help with, some of the issues that we're having in the classroom. Doesn't really deal with the cafeteria problems with the phone. Unless you just completely say no phones, you're not going to eliminate all the problems. But, that was brought up, that there were 2 teachers that did require this last year, and it really did work well for them. So we put in there that we'll do that for all the classrooms this year. Grading, this is something we've been talking about all year. Currently in the handbook, we had a policy where if a kid failed a test, they were allowed to retake the test. The problem we've gotten into is we have several kids who, they just don't study for the test and take the test, and then, because I'm going to get to retake it. And it's just putting more work on the teachers, because then they're having to come up with another test when they would have just studied to begin with. We wouldn't have had the problem. So, again, we looked at some surrounding schools, and what we came up with is that a student will be allowed to retake 1 test per 6 weeks. Teachers are required to have 2 tests in the 6 weeks. But for the 6 weeks, we would allow the students to retake 1 of them. But in order to do that, they've got to fill out a form that they have to get their parent to sign. They've got to do some type of practice work, because the thing was too, is they would not study and fail. Well, then they're not getting any, they're not doing anything to learn the material. They're just, and so we are going to make them do some type of a test correction or practice work, and they have to attend at least tutoring 1 time before they're able to. So it's going to, I think, put it to where only kids that are truly wanting to retest are going to go through the hoops to take the retest, because it's going to be a little bit more involved in them not just being able to say, oh, I want to take a retest. So I think it'll help the teachers out to where it's going to eliminate some of the retest, and the students just will study the first time. And then on the drug testing, when we were looking through that, Mr. Wyndham mentioned that the band was drug tested last year, and currently the drug testing language just listed athletics and cheerleading, so we just added band as one of the groups, since that is what was currently being done.
I thought we couldn't force the band to take the drug test.
He said that this year that they did do that.
Because that was part of the, it wasn't considered extracurricular, because marching was part of the academic part of the band. But we had this discussion back, I know Mr. Stanley.
I don't know, and I talked to Mr. Bradshaw about this, because it got brought up in our discussion as why are some students having to do the drug test and not everybody? Why is not all extracurricular having to do it, and we're just doing, and I was asking him, and he said, like ag is considered really co-curricular, which is what you're talking about. He said, but I guess you could argue if they are going off of campus, then that does end up turning into an extracurricular event. So he said, so it may be something that we look at saying all extracurricular. I just didn't want to put that in there right now. I was going to wait and let Dr. Seegers do that if he wanted to do that. So I'm not sure.
Because we questioned why we couldn't test them in years past.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know we even tested them last year.
I didn't either until we met, and he said that they were tested. And, when that was brought up of why some and not the others, I didn't have an answer to that. I don't know. So that may be something we look at.
Also love to put it on all extracurriculars, then you get the kids to pull out.
Well, and Mr. Wyndham contacted a school close to us to see what they were doing, and they said they do all extracurricular and anybody that drives to school. Which makes sense too, you know, if you're gonna drive, then, but,
Who said that?
James Bowie did that. So that may be something, you know, later on that y'all may wanna, look into, but
Because that's some.
Tattoos.
do what?
Is that how the other schools work?
Oh, no, I just put to let you know. I think ours says, that as long as it lists a thing, if it's satanic, if it, you know, it's prohibited if you have any of these things listed, any inappropriate, vulgar, you know, there are some tattoos that have to be covered if they're vulgar, if it's, you know, anything that's satanic. There's about 10 things listed that are not, but just your overall tattoo. We're not gonna make you, because we have several kids that have the arm sleeves now.
What about Texas A&M tattoos? They have to be covered?
That is pretty bad, I don't know, but,
Well, going back to the dress code, since we're discussing that, I've noticed there's several things that, it appears that we're not enforcing anyway on our dress code, because the pictures that are posted out there on Facebook, one of them is the holes in the pants above the requirement, that's not covered. So if we're gonna let tattoo show, we need to probably change that too.
and I think what it
You know, if
says
it's not enforceable, we're not enforcing it, we need to change it.
But the holes in the pants the same as like we do on the employees, as long as it's not the crotch of the butt.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's got right, it's
but,
gotta
you
be
know,
at your like
there's-
fingertips.
There's certain pictures, even the colored hair, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think on some of that stuff, the short shorts, the leggings, the pants, we do a pretty good job of policing it. Maybe here during school hours, but any extracurricular event, it pretty much, free for all. Everybody goes home and changes clothes before they come back to the football, baseball, or basketball game. So that's just,
We need to look at it.
it's a discussion that needs to be had, I think.
Yeah.
Do what?
When they come, if they leave and they come back, they're their parents' problem. You know, that's kind of my, I don't.
Well, some of it even happening here on campus.
Well, that was something we talked about, you know, in our meeting is, you know, I'm not one that is I don't, you know, not on the campus. My whole thing is if it's in the handbook, it needs to be enforced. If we're not gonna enforce it, then it needs to be out of the handbook. You know, however we want to come up with it, but, you know, if it's in there, then
Pick your
it needs to be.
Yeah, if we draw the line, don't move it.
Right, yeah.
We can take
Whatever
them
we
out.
agree on and say, that's what it is, and that's what we need to stick to.
Slacks,
Um,
dress shoes.
So,
We'll go uniforms?
No, I do not.
Sure.
If you're gonna start enforcing it, you probably lean more towards uniforms. Cause you're splitting hairs there, you're gonna say one hole there, one hole there. You know, same little.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I just want us to enforce whatever the handbook is. If we need to augment some things, and I think we probably need to. Get, you know.
The
I
consistency.
agree with this.
Yeah, we just need to be where
As long as
everybody's on
we're
the same page,
policing it,
us,
and we're-
administration, to where,
I just don't like seeing it flaunted out there on Facebook and our accounts and that it violates our dress code,
I get it.
I agree.
you know, so. At least police pictures. Do something.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right.
Any other questions or discussion? Do we have a motion to approve the student handbook for 23-24?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Aaron, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rusty. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Discuss revision and approve the student handbook for 23-24. Student code of conduct.
Okay, so on this, the only change, which is a huge change, is now a student, if they get caught with a vape at school, it is mandatory AEP. Which they're having a meeting next week with all the schools in the DAEP to kind of talk about an agreement that everyone can come up with on, because, you know, typically if you got AEP, it's a minimum of 30 days, and, you know, like Mr. Bobbitt said in New Boston, he said, if we do that, then we're not gonna have enough room at AEP, we're not gonna have enough teachers, because this is fixing to be. So what they're looking at possibly doing is having all the schools, if a student gets sent to AEP, to do 8 days at the beginning as your first offense, because I do feel like
That's within
this will be.
misconduct?
Do what?
Any misconduct? or
No, just the
Just
vapes.
vape, okay.
Just the vapes.
Is this a state thing, or is this the state student handbook? That's what I'm making sure. This is not something, we're not the only one doing this.
No, everybody's having to do it.
Yeah, that's what I need, that's what I'm.
And you know, the whole thing with, they were trying to come up with more of the not serious events, putting them back on the districts because there were so many kids getting sent to AEP and then they passed this, which kind of completely contradicts what they were trying to do, because this is going to be probably a number of kids that, and that was something we talked about in our meeting Tuesday, is we definitely need to, the first day of school, let our kids know that this is a new rule, because, you know, we've got the machines in the bathrooms, that the detectors, and to let them know that it will be mandatory AEP the first time they get called.
How is that addressed to all students?
We have assemblies.
So on day one?
They do a junior high assembly and they do a high school assembly, and kind of go over dress code and the rules, and, you know, so that is definitely something that we need to make sure they know, because that is a huge change from what it was last year.
Any other questions or discussion? Do we have a motion to adopt the student code of conduct for 23-24?
I'll make it motion.
A motion by Terry, with a second. Second by Gap. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Discuss and approve the employee handbook. That's right.
Okay, so on that, for some reason, and I don't know how many years ago it's been, but the dress code for the staff got removed from the employee handbook. So we went, and there was the wording right there for the tattoos, because I just copied it out of the kids and put it in the, so I tried to use the same wording that we had in the student handbook to come up with our employee dress code. So it's fairly similar to the student one. The only thing that we had, we put on there with the students, they have to wear, if they wear leggings, they have to have a shirt that comes to a certain length. For the staff, we put that no leggings could be worn as pants, only tights if they were with a dress. Because we have had some issues with the staff wearing leggings. And so that is a little bit different wording for the staff than we did for the students, but a lot of it is basically similar to the student dress code.
Y'all gonna let all the staff know about the alcohol and alcoholic beverages?
This is a game changer right here.
I know, it's gonna be hard, they gotta take clothes back.
Yeah.
You know,
Think the leggings are the hardest thing. Something else to deal with.
yeah.
Questions or discussion?
One person ruins it for everybody.
Terry?
There's a lot of them that
On
can
our,
wear it, it's fine.
no employee shall wear any garment, tattoos.
No, it says that have any of these things listed below.
Okay.
That has anything that has any tobacco products, if you know, it has any obscenities or devil worship, anything that's related to gangs, which that is the tattoos, the clothes, anything that has any of that is not allowed.
Well, I can tell you right now that that orange hair ain't gonna work down here, and we got well water to go in here.
So that ends where the two dots are, and then we get our next.
Right, yes.
Until we get our next.
Visible body piercings is on its own, clothes and jeans.
Yes.
And,
Oh, okay, I see.
We have an unusual amount of redheads around here, so that orange hair is.
Well, all of them thought they were redheads until they moved out and got in the city, and they realized, oh, I got a natural brown look going on.
Any other questions or discussions?
In the policy, we have a test for it. Me and Terry were having a sidebar over here. Why can't we not drug test our employees?
There's I don't know.
I don't want to understand, we can
Anybody
drug
got an
test
answer for that?
CDL.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they drive the bus, that's what they do.
So you can't drug test them? That's just crazy.
Turner, you don't wanna get drug tested?
I definitely do, I definitely do get to do that a couple times a year normally.
The way he runs around here,
If I'm running around like that, you better test me.
Typically, it's your CDL
Yeah.
employees, unless there's a policy that requires otherwise.
But it-
Any consultant.
Can a school adopt a policy for that?
I believe you can.
Okay.
So it's, but we need to look at policies. Before I get into that.
Oh, it's a-
It is very common with all your CDLs, not just state DOT, you have to have.
I think it's just wise if we can get it done, it's wise for anybody that's gonna be leaving their kids.
So
If we can.
that was discussion for next one.
Yeah, we'll research that.
Somebody asked legal at some point.
Yeah, I think they definitely do.
Just ask them, I'm sure they dealt with it.
Huge legal question.
Any other questions or discussion on the employee handbook? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ryan, second by Terry. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Consider and approve Modesty Teacher Appraisal Calendar for 23-24.
I mean, this is the same as last year, except the dates, we've updated the dates, and then we've updated the names also. But it's exactly the same as last year.
Questions or
Who's
discussion?
the alternate? Oh, the calendar. Okay, go ahead. I'm stepping ahead.
Any other question or discussion on the teacher appraisal calendar? Have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Aaron, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by RJ. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Consider and approve teacher appraisers for 23-24.
And this is the same as it was last year, except for I changed Mr. Bradshaw's name and added Dr. Seegers to it.
Who? All right, have any questions or discussion? Have a motion to approve the teacher appraisers for 23-24?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Cap, have a second?
I'll say.
Second by Terry, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Congratulations.
I've added his name to a lot of stuff here lately.
Consider and approve the 23-24 district improvement plan as presented by Mrs. Sanders,
And
acting superintendent.
last year, there was several new requirements as far as items that were required to be in our plan. So we got with a consultant to make sure we had everything in here that we needed, got everything checked to make sure we were in compliance. None of the changes there's no changes for this year. So basically, this is exactly like our plan last year, except for the very first page where I have updated the budget summary to match our amounts for this year. So if you want me to go through the plan, I don't mind, but it is exactly the same plan we had last year with just updated budget amounts.
Anybody, here's the whole plan?
Terry, this is where you want to talk about page 6.
Well, this is where.
He's skimming quickly over here.
We did the attachments earlier, so I couldn't point it out.
1.2.4 on page 6,
I
curriculum
think we'll
director.
wait until next one.
Any question or discussion on the district improvement plan as presented? Do I have a motion to approve as presented? Motion by Gap, have a second? Second by Terry, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next is superintendent's report.
All right, so on the construction projects, we've had Pierce Murray here. He has been locating all of the utilities out in the grass out of this area. We've also had a company out doing the soil samples. We're waiting on the reports for those. And then tomorrow is the deadline for the bids to see who wants to do the Seymour for the construction. So that is over tomorrow. They will approve, they will come up with who y'all choose for the Seymour. That comes at the next board meeting. As far as the summer maintenance, all of the air conditioners have been serviced, the floors are waxed, the buildings are ready for school to start. And for the August board meetings, we have a special one that's going to be August the 8th, and then the regular one will be August the 29th.
Special one.
Right, the special one for the tax, it's going to be on tape.
They got the maintenance done on the cafeteria.
I'm not sure.
That's what you're saying.
Or maintenance specifically or something.
I think everything is supposed to have been cleaned, is what I was told. So,
I usually have to go clean the roaches out, consider.
Anything else?
Alive and dead.
Let's move on. Next item is going into executive session at 7:21 PM. We'll discuss some personnel occurred in Texas Government Code Section 551.074. We're going to consider and take action to hire Ronald David Seegers as superintendent of schools and approve a new superintendent contract, length of contract, and salary. Discuss and approve or consider a contract recommendation of the following personnel according to the same Texas Government Code: teacher coach, elementary classroom teacher, science teacher, middle school. Discuss term only employee, resignation from employees. And that's all we're going to be discussing in executive session. We're going to executive session now. We'll take a short break, reconvene. Make an open session at 7:58 PM from 2 minutes till 8. Next item on the agenda is to take action to employ Ronald David Seegers as superintendent of Mott Independent School District. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Terry. We have a second.
Second.
Second by RJ. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Welcome to the district.
Thank you so much.
Excuse me, Dr. Seegers. All right. Take action to approve new superintendent contract. Do we have a motion to approve the new superintendent contract as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
Second by RJ, all in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Since you seconded, I assume you will.
Make sure they know that, RJ.
And then we need to approve designating the newly hired Maude ISD Superintendent, Ronald David Seegers, as signatory for Maude ISD Bank Depository, Safety Deposit Box, and all other state and federal entities as may be required, and remove the previous superintendent. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Terry,
I'll second it.
second by Aaron, all in favor? Unanimous. Consider and take action on contract recommendations for hiring personnel. We have teacher coach Marina Estelle. Do we have a motion?
Make that motion.
Have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Volleyball coordinator Tommy Foster on a stipend contract. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Aaron, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ryan, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next is accept resignation from employees. We have none. Next item is adjournment. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Aaron and a second by, yep, very close. All in favor? All opposed, stay seated.